just get into the show because y'all gonna understand my doubt once I start talking. And I'm not saying this, to scare anyone. You know, I'm officially not giving any legal advice, and I don't represent a law firm. I ain't no attorney, man. I don't got none of them things in the public, baby. But I'm reading this thing. This is what we need to pay attention to, in my opinion. And I know that a lot of people want to talk about trust, and like when I talk about that. But I want to talk about monetary policy. I might, we might even get it to set off. Like, I just want to start expanding, and all of the expansion is going to be for the benefit of the audience. I'm not really into this. This ain't no clickbait. Ooh, what they're going to do with your money. Like, I'm dead serious. I'm absolutely serious. And this is to me is likely some of the most important information of the next decade or so. Because it's going to put us in a position to that we can be able to pivot if we need to. And we're going to see it coming, so we can be like, here it goes. And, countries around the world currently have negative interest rates on depositors. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand what that means. Basically, what it means is if there's negative interest rates on deposits, if I deposit $100, the next day I go to take it out, and it ain't $100, fam. It's $99 and maybe 70 cents or something. And or even say if it's 10 cents, it's like 1%. Like, I don't care if it's 10, if it's 1%, it's 10 cents. So just having this $100 on deposit, I'm losing 10 cents every day that the money's on deposit. Look, the reason why they want to do this, and the reason why it matters is, most of us save in cash. We have savings accounts. We have, which are cash, quote. We have 401ks, IRAs that are denominated in cash, quote, cash, currency. And the issue is, ultimately for me, is that changes in monetary policy, which is the medium of exchange, this legal tender for all debts, public and private, affects us the most, And in this, they point out that they know that, And look, I went through this. I was reading this. I'm like, okay, look, I'm just going to read this whole thing. You know what I mean? But then I was like, man, this thing's probably going to be boring. And, and I set up this area around me, you know what I mean? So I had a little bit of music, and I had incense burning and stuff. I had some medicine, and, everything was good. But once I started reading this thing, I couldn't put it down. And, I didn't cry. There was a couple times where I got emotional, though. There was a couple times where I actually laughed at the absurdity of what was being said. There was also a couple times where I got upset, where I felt that the way this was being spoken of was in such a dismissive way to people who it was going to affect so heavily. It was very infuriating for me, Bottom line, it's not about emotions. You know what I'm saying? It's about facts and what we do with the facts. It's not about being scared. It's not about any of that stuff. But, in order to be able to formulate a plan or, make proper moves, we have to have the proper facts. Bottom line, the name of this paper is called the IMF Working Paper, Enabling Deep Negative Rates to Fight Recessions. It's a guide. You can find it at the International Monetary Fund website. It's a working paper, so they label it WP. And it's WP/19/84. So I think if you type in IMF working paper WP/19/84, you're gonna find this joint, and you can look at it yourself. Now I don't expect you to read it, man. It's crazy. It's like 88 pages if you include the citations, and it's not an easy read, fam. I'm not, whatever. But bottom line is the experience of the Great Recession and its aftermath revealed that a lower bound on interest rates can be a serious obstacle for fighting recessions. Hold on. When they're talking about the lower bound on interest rates, a boundary, so a lower bound. So currently, at least in the United States, there's a boundary at 0%. You can't, there's really no precedent for pushing interest rates down below zero into negative territory. Now, there's precedents in other countries, Sweden and other that stuff, but not here. All right. So the breaking below the zero lower bound, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about hitting interest rates under 0%. However, the zero lower bound is not a law of nature. It is a policy choice. So they're saying it's not a law of nature. It's a policy choice. They can choose whenever they want. Man, look, the central message of this paper is that with readily available tools, a central bank can enable deep negative rates whenever needed, thus maintaining the power of monetary policy in the future to end recessions within a short time. This paper demonstrates that a subset of these tools can have a big effect in enabling, deep negative rates with administratively small actions on the part of the central bank. So, really, the central bank, so the Federal Reserve don't really have to do too much, It doesn't. Hey, we didn't. Hey. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward. So I'm going to jump ahead. I got some stuff underlined. We argue the best approaches for enabling deep negative rates, both at a minimum distance from the current monetary framework and the least costly politically. So basically they're saying at a minimum distance from the current monetary framework. So, they want to, have it very close or at a minimum distance from the current framework of how the monetary policy is set up. And it's going to be least costly to the politics, elections. So basically, the senators didn't do it. Your state representatives didn't do it. Your district representatives, and of course, all this is in the public, but they didn't do it. You can't blame them for it because they don't want any cost politically. So they want it to be done. Look. The clean approach, which is an electronic money system that takes paper currency off par. So they're talking about several different approaches. One of the approaches is you're taking paper currency or cash, what we have, and making it less valuable than the electronic credits in an account. So if you got $100 in cash, it's not as valuable as $100 in credit, or $100 in credit, not credit cards, but in a checking account credited with $100. You walk in to the bank to deposit $100, they give you a receipt saying you deposited $80. Look, relying on banks for transmission of a negative rate of return on paper currency reduces the implementation burden and political cost associated with negative rates. When working through banks, anything that would be a political problem, for the central bank, and this is this is where I first laughed. When working through banks, anything that would be a political problem for the central bank becomes a customer relationship management problem for the commercial banks. These are your credit unions, your Wells Fargos. Instead of the direction of anger being pointed toward the Federal Reserve and the Intermonetary Fund, the point of the anger focus is going to be on the banks, like it was last time on that Occupy Wall Street that really didn't go anywhere and really didn't do anything because these bankers walked away with a whole bunch of money and the Americans didn't do anything. So we're going to do that again. Commercial banks Commercial banks are likely to be better and more experienced in dealing with customer relations problems, even those with a new twist. Then central banks are at dealing with grassroots political problems. Feel what I'm saying? And like I said, people were mad at the banks last time. And being mad at the banks specifically dissipated political pushback. There was an uproar to politicians and representatives in the public, but it wasn't really towards them. It was towards the bankers, and you're supposed to, do this new bank policy. And they did. They did a whole bunch of regulation, which is being unwound right now, currently. But look, I'm going to move forward, man. I got some other stuff. Okay, so boom. The role of banks and the private sector financial system in transmitting the negative paper currency interest rate, and whether the approach requires quantity restrictions on cash or instead relies on the price system to adjust the value of paper currency. So they talk about quantity restrictions on cash, which means, you can only deposit a certain amount of money in an account, a certain amount of cash, in an account. There's a cutoff. So they're like, we're not going to let you deposit that much into the account. You can only do, this much in the account. Otherwise, there's a penalty fee or, who knows exactly, man. This stuff is crazy. At a minimum distance from the current monetary framework and the least cost politically, they keep saying this thing, are those that both rely on banks for transmission and do not impose quantity restrictions on cash. So they're basically saying let the banks impose these restrictions and don't restrict the quantity of cash. This is one of their frameworks. They have 4 different frameworks. There's 4 different frameworks on how they're going to implement these policies. And ultimately, they're going to do is they're going to put the interest rates at negative. We are going to realize that we're losing money by having it in the bank. So what does that do? If there's restrictions on withdrawals, you can only pull out $50. And look, the reason why I got interested in this, because, maybe you haven't, but you've heard about that Zimbabwe, $100 trillion bill or something like that when they were in hyperinflation? All these different currencies have rolled over in different countries, and it's all good. But I'm telling you, I think it was 2016, I don't remember what it was. But Greece, man, they had a crisis in Greece, and the banks imposed withdrawal limits. And they closed the banks, and they only had ATMs running. Look, and they had Europeans in long lines waiting to get cash out, complaining. It wasn't Zimbabweans. It wasn't, man, look, man. And that's when I was like, ooh. And I didn't know to throw that card into it, but, it just made me really pay attention. So the adjustment of the value is going to be through policy, and adjusting the current monetary framework, the least costly politically, is going to be through monetary policy, which is run by the Federal Reserve, which will produce inflation. They have another approach, the clean approach, which is an electronic money system that takes paper currency off par. And they have a rental fee approach. Let me keep moving, blah, blah. Okay, so the third organizing principle is useful in establishing a typology for a range of possible approaches, but is normatively less consequential than whether the central bank relies on the private sector for transmission and whether it works through the price system. And the price system would be them reducing the value of the currency. I'm telling you, man, this stuff is insidious. Then I have to even, look, the fact that and I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence. I'm just trying to make this as easily understandable as possible. Commercial banks are likely to be better and more experienced in dealing with customer relations problems, even with a new twist. So they say it again. As for implementation, all but one of the approaches we present that work primarily through commercial banks and the private sector financial system require implementation only at the cash window of the central bank. So they're going to implement the policies at the cash window of the central bank and then let it trickle down from there. After minimalist implementation, the central bank can leave the rest up to the private sector. One key aspect of bank transmission approaches is that the less the central bank does and more is done by commercial banks, look at this, the less new legislation, the less new legislation is likely to be needed. So the focus of this paper is how to implement these policies without having to pass new laws, which means without having representatives and of districts and states and delegates or whatever within state, Senate, House, Congress, and federal Congress, House, Senate. They don't have to push it through. There's no question and answer period for the public. So for me, the implications of this is plain. Approaches relying on the price system to create a negative paper currency interest rate are better because imposing quantity restrictions on cash is likely to lead to a more drastic change in the way people transact. And in some approaches require a higher administrative burden to implement. It's going to cost more money, is what they're saying. Avoiding drastic changes in the way people transact avoids one possible source of political opposition. Thus, it is likely that bringing about a negative paper currency interest rate using the price system is likely to face fewer and less intense political challenges. We argue that approaches that rely on banks and the price system for transmission are at a minimum distance from the current monetary system and likely to carry the least political cost. Minimum distance from the monetary system. Even if you try to make changes in legislation in the monetary system in the countries, it doesn't matter because the central banks are implementing the policies. Man, look, the clean approach, which creates an exchange rate between two forms of money, paper currency and electronic currency. And y'all check this out, USD coin. United States dollar coin, USD coin. They already got this little crypto coin. Look, fam, search it. Look it up. I'm going to keep going while y'all do that. Nevertheless, reducing political costs where that is consistent with sweeping away any lower bound on interest, putting it below zero, is not only directly helpful, but also makes the financial markets more likely to believe that the central bank will be bold enough to pursue a vigorous negative interest rate policy. They try to bleach smoke screens. Also makes the financial markets more likely to believe that the central bank will be bold enough. They want them to think stuff. Man, they got this. And it says we take the stance of the central banks. Not the stance of the people, not even the stance of the commercial banks. They take the stance and the position of the commercial banks. A key complementary policy that can calm the political waters is to encourage and support banks, check this out, y'all, in providing zero interest rates on small deposit accounts, even in situations where a wide range of assets including large deposit accounts, are subject to negative interest rates. So what we are going to see negative interest hit everyone but us. At least that's what it's going to look like. They're going to say, "Oh, if you don't have that much money, if you meet income requirements, we will not impose negative interest rates on your deposits. We are the banks. We're here for the common people." We view this we view this complementary policy as important enough to all the approaches we discuss that no criticism of an approach is apt if it is leveled at a version of the approach that is stripped of this complementary policy of encouraging and supporting the provision of zero rates to small deposit accounts. Basically saying, if y'all don't do that, if y'all don't give the small people, the smaller accounts an exemption, this stuff ain't going to work. You're going to have political costs. There's going to be political unrest. These fools going to riot. They're going to burn all your stuff down. They're going to try to catch you. An alternate line of thinking for generating a negative percentage interest rate on cash focuses on depreciation mechanism for paper currency. Such ideas involve distinguishing between paper currency and electronic money, with electronic money being the unit of account or the real thing. The electronic thing, look, the distinction makes it, I'm trying not to laugh. The distinction makes it possible, because this ain't funny. This distinction makes it possible to engineer a depreciation, a loss in value of paper currency relative to electronic currency. So it's worth less. The dollars, the cash physical dollars are worth less than the electronic dollars, fam. Thereby discouraging massive paper currency storage when faced with negative interest rates. Yo, so we're going to put negative interest rates on your deposit accounts. And we're going to say the cash that you have is worth less than what you got in your accounts. Yo, these people, yo. Another approach uses tax policy. Public finance theories continues to identify tax policy equivalents to non-tax policies. The tax approach involves identifying the tax policy equivalent to negative interest rates. To achieve the equivalent of deep negative interest rates in tax policy, the tax approach involves engineering an increasing path of consumption taxes, a decreasing path of labor taxes, and a temporary investment tax credit. So consumption taxes, food, that's consumption. Gas, that's consumption. Clothing, that's consumption. Basically the stuff that we need to live our lives. They're talking about increasing path of consumption taxes, decreasing of labor taxes, so employers pay less taxes on labor costs, and temporary investment tax credits. So if you put the money in these stock or equity or stock market investments, we will exempt it from tax. Fam. The increasing path of consumption taxes over time generates inflation in final good consumer prices. So what that it do is they increase the path of consumption taxes. It will increase the final price of goods that we pay. This affects us. You're going to get an exemption on your deposit account. We're not going to put negative interest rates on that. We're just going to raise the price of what you consume, the prices of gasoline, the prices of food, the prices of water, the prices of milk, the prices of the Similac powder for your daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, the decreasing path of labor taxes avoids any disincentive for work from the rising consumption taxes. So basically, we're like, oh, well, you're going to get a little bit more money. The temporary investment tax extends the equivalent of negative interest rates to investment goods. Yo. All right. Not all banks, however, have direct access to Federal Reserve cash window, as some smaller banks maintain the required reserve at larger banks, known as correspondent banks. Did y'all know that? Smaller banks are known as correspondent banks. Instead of directly at the Fed, the smaller banks typically obtain cash through their correspondent banks by paying a small fee for the service. The larger banks act as an intermediary. They get the cash from the Fed and pass it on to the smaller banks. I find that interesting. I think that's interesting. For example, just as central banks determine the relative value of different denominations of paper currency by how they treat them at the cash window, such as two $10 bills are worth a $20 bill, they can also determine how much, say, a paper dollar is worth compared to an electronic dollar in a reserve account by how they treat the paper currency at the cash window. Alternatively, central banks can charge a rental fee for paper currency issued. Suppose the Fed wants to establish a negative 1% paper currency interest rate at the cash window. Then, at the beginning of the year, it will stand to exchange paper currency for electronic currency at par with banks at the cash window. At the end of the year, when a commercial bank comes to the cash window, the central bank hands it a $100 note to have the money put into its reserve account. The Fed would only add $99 to that commercial bank's reserve account. And B, when a commercial bank came to the cash window of the Fed and asked for a paper $100 note, only $99 would be deducted from its reserve account. Note that this is, Note that this exchange rate will predictably and gradually change throughout the year as per the principles of compound interest. A $100 paper note would be worth $99.92 electronic dollars at the end of the first month, $99.83 at the end of the second month, and $99.75 at the end of the third month, and so on. I'm telling you, man, this is equivalent to creating a crawling exchange rate between the two forms of money. They're going to create a crawling exchange rate between the two forms of money, cash and, quote, electronic money, and they're going to do it at the cash window, and we're not even going to know how it happened. In the above example, the appreciation rate is negative 1% per annum, which is equal to the PCIR. I forgot what that is. That stands for percentage rate on cash interest rate. Something cash interest rate. This mechanism creates a crawling peg between the two types of currencies, in this case with the paper currency smoothly depreciating by 1% over the course of a year. Ooh, I'm telling you, the central bank has unlimited firepower for defending any exchange rate it declares between different forms of money under its jurisdiction. To overcome the zero lower bound, the clean approach requires combining A, the non-zero paper currency interest rate at the cash window using an exchange rate, and B, using electronic money as the unit of account. This is what's going to happen. This is how they're going to go to a cashless society, and they're going to do it through negative interest rates. This is how they're going to do this cashless society push. My bad. The public is. Now, we can choose to be a part of that through ignorance and not doing anything. Or we could choose to, do our dance and find alternative forms of currency, such as gold, silver, maybe even some Bitcoin, but that stuff, there's nothing backing it. It has value, but there's nothing backing it. So I know if I got an ounce of silver, that'll never go to zero. But, retailers who regularly accept both cash and cards would have the option of applying a store-wide paper currency surcharge assessed at checkout as sales taxes now are in the U.S. So they're saying in the United States, they already used to sales taxes. Although retailers could do this, they would not be required to. That is, while arbitrage will ensure that the exchange rate would hold throughout the financial system, it need not hold at all retail shops that deal regularly with both cash and credit cards. Many retail shops accept at-par credit card payments that are worth as little as 97%. They're saying a lot of these retail shops will let you run their card for a $100 shirt, even though they're not even going to get $100 from you out of that transaction because they got to pay the credit card fees. And that's why a lot of places now they're going to tell you there's a minimum credit card transaction. You got to buy at least $5 or $6 worth, because that makes it worth it to them over the course of the day or the week or the month, however they got it figured out. Because there's fees, fam. Where am I at? The effective exchange rate at the cash. If this deposit fee gradually increases over time during a period of negative interest rates, it blocks what otherwise might be an arbitrage opportunity of withdrawing, storing, and later redepositing paper currency. In the clean approach, the deposit fee would be the net deposits, which, ignoring other transaction costs, would establish an exchange rate. the price of any paper dollar in terms of electronic dollars of reserves. Fam. Where we at? Thus, a time-varying paper currency deposit fee effectively takes paper currency off par into a crawling peg regime. In this crawling peg regime, gradual depreciation of paper currency relative to reserve generates a negative nominal rate of return for paper currency, where nominal is measured with a dollar of reserves as a numeraire. The clean approach generates a negative rate of return paper currency located anywhere. Imagine a drug lord, and they be talking about drug lords heavily in this thing. And in my opinion, they're attempting to demonize those who use and like and appreciate cash. And how, look, these central banks introduced cash. They tricked people from gold and silver certificates, pulled the gold and silver out of circulation, issued Federal Reserve notes and certain types of different fiat currencies, and now they're demonizing people who use it and store it. Insidious, I'm trying to tell y'all, man. Where was I at? I was over somewhere with the drug lord. Where's the drug lord? Man, I lost my place. Oh, my bad. The drug lord's cash is also only accepted at a discount. The gradual and key increase during the negative interest rate period means the drug lord's cash of cash is also earning a negative return. And this is, like I said, this is insinuating anyone or family holding cash for drug lords, fam. The ability to vary paper currency interest rate along with other key interest rates, which can be modified by standard means even in negative territory, makes it possible to stimulate investment and net exports as much as needed to revive the economy. So basically what they're doing is they're stealing value out of the currency to put it in the economy, fam. First, there's likely to be psychological and computational cost associated with paper currency being away from par. Anything new is likely to worry people, whether or not there is a good reason to worry. Beyond the psychological cost, there would be some computational cost, most consequentially for households. Even then, the cost is only incurred by households when retailers pass through a non-par exchange rate. If old debt contracts are not stated in terms of the electronic unit of account, then borrowers may have an option to repay in paper currency when paper currency is cheaper than par. Look, man, this problem can be addressed by legislation clarifying that debt contracts should be interpreted as referring to units of electronic bank money, or alternatively by debt contracts including clauses to handle situations when paper currency is away from par. For example, the United States gold clauses, which after being banned in 1933, have been legal again in the U.S. since 1977. And they serve as a precedent for electronic payment clauses. And this is why I'll be like, when you grabbing gold and silver, even like, and I push carat bars because it's a great opportunity to get your hands on some gold, even if you got a little bit of money. But I ultimately say get enough carat bars up to a 31.1 grams and exchange that in for an American Eagle ounce of gold. Because in 1984, okay, so they outlawed the private ownership of gold in 1933. And then it was repealed in 1977 or made legal again. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't repealed. Maybe it was just made legal again. So I ain't going to say repealed. And in 1984, the IRS proposed legislation that numismatic coins were non-confiscatable. And in 1985, they created the American Gold Eagle program. And I think in 86, they did the American Eagle Silver coin program. And those are the only coins designated as numismatic by Congress, because they're saying that this confiscation of gold could be a precedent for the electronic payment clauses. Third, there can be confusion costs associated with people still thinking in terms of paper currency. Fourth, if some prices are sticky in paper currency, then this could increase the cost of higher inflation rate in terms of the paper currency. Okay, check this out. For instance, a reduction in electronic transaction fees through innovation that disrupts the credit and debit card oligarchy could lead merchants to encourage greater use of electronic payments. Is that a prophecy? I think that's a prophecy. I think they're saying there might be some sort of innovation that disrupts the credit and debit card oligopoly, that would lead merchants to encourage greater use of electronic payments. Central banks. In this context, the recent exploration by some central banks of the idea of issuing a central bank digital currency that is widely accessible digital form of fiat money could also be helpful. Such innovations are likely to further reduce the role of cash and increase the share of electronic transactions in the economy. So this is twofold. They're going to stimulate the economy in recessions and stimulate the transition from cash to electronic. All right, man. So I'm running out of time. I ain't finna read all this. I know there's a couple other things I wanted to touch on. The Fed will generate a negative 1% by announcing a 1% per annum rental fee for commercial banks withdrawing paper currency from the cash window. Okay, so the rental fee. Okay, so they're talking about a rental fee. So basically what is rented is the paperness of a given amount, man. Come on, man. It puts substantial burden on commercial banks to figure out how to transmit or transform the rental fee imposed at the cash window when they provide paper currency to their customers. Transform or transmit. So they basically want to pass that. They're going to pass that fee on to the customers. I'm telling you, on top of negative interest rates, man. They're going to look, man. I'm not even playing. I'm just reading this stuff. Then it's up to the bank to figure. Okay, so look, in interlocking clauses, a central bank can put any bank with access to cash window on the hook for whatever paper currency interest rate the central bank decides to charge, and on the bank's cumulative net withdrawals of paper currency after a certain date. And this is regardless of who actually ends up with the paper currency. Then it is up to the bank to figure out how and whether to pass it on to the customers, the negative paper currency interest rate it faces on the extra. They're over here making provisions for if a bank went bankrupt after withdrawing a large amount of cash at the cash window and handing off that cash to favored individuals. Look, man, they're trying to think of anything. So, like I said, the Swiss National Bank is negative. The Bank of Japan is negative. So far, these central banks charge negative interest rates through the formula for interest on reserves, but there's no reason it needs to stop there if very large amounts of paper currency are withdrawn. So they're putting forth the case that the Swiss National Bank and the Bank of Japan are already at zero interest rate policies, and it's not happening, and there's no reason that they should stop there. The main remaining concern for the central bank is about how to facilitate the efforts of commercial banks to pass on the negative interest rate of the paper currency in some form to other parts of the economy, and that would be us, namely. This concern is only about minimizing side effects, establishing a negative interest rate at the cash window in line with the target rate of interest reserves. Now, let me keep going. Cuts in the interest rates tend to reduce default probabilities of those borrowing from banks. So this is a pro. So when they lower interest rates, it tends to reduce default probabilities from those borrowing from bank, both because lower interest rates reduce interest burden and improve their ability to service debts, and because lower interest rates improve corporate profitability and the income of households due to improvements in the economy. Net interest income is defined as the difference between interest income and expense. Evidence suggests that cuts in interest rates in the negative region cause net interest margins to fall for those banks that have the heaviest reliance on retail deposits. This is what they're going to get in. Overall, the empirical literature finds very benign effects of the negative rates on bank profitability thus far across all countries that have experimented with negative rates. It's looking good for the banks on the policy. Yeah. In principle, a bank could charge such a rental fee on net cash out to a customer. But what does it stop a customer from withdrawing a large amounts of cash, then cutting the ties with the banks? This is analogous with the intentional bankruptcy discussed above. So they get, even if a contract still obligated the former customer to keep paying the rental fee on the net cash out, it is a lot of trouble for the bank to track down the customer. As a result, the commercial banks are likely to charge a substantial one-time fee on withdrawal of cash to make it worth their while to give out the cash. They got everything. They got everything. With cash withdrawal limits per ATM transaction. For example, when the withdrawal limit per transaction is $200 and the ATM withdrawal fee is $3, withdrawing $600 will require 3 transactions and can incur a $9 fee. On the other side of the coin, some banks now charge higher fees at the teller window than at the bank's ATM, and in order to discourage human use of tellers and save on staffing costs, it is a short step from these existing practices to charging a fee for cash withdrawal at both the ATM and at the teller window, as would be important when banks remain on the hook for the rental fee of the paper currency. To make the ATM and teller window fees more acceptable for customers, bank would allow each customer to withdraw cash up to a limit every month without any fees, whether or not that is subsidized by a central bank. To mitigate the risk of business withdrawing a large quantity of cash and cutting ties with the banks, banks could choose a maximum amount of cash they are willing to rent out. All right, let me get to these points. I know there's a spot. Gresham was long, because I want to end this off because we got about 10 minutes left in the broadcast. This thing is, I suggest if you can, we see 4 virtues of tying the amount of deposits with the central bank that a private bank can get 0 interest rates on the amount households balance up to a given per adult limit. It takes care of the profitability problem of the banks. The limit defining what amounts of money are over the limit provides a marker for banks in explaining to customers that large accounts will have the over limit amount subject to negative interest rates. This should make the pass-through to large accounts a bit easier for banks. So basically saying large accounts that aren't going to be exempted from negative interest rates, like, consumer accounts, like smaller family accounts, they're telling these people what to tell them. And they're saying, fortunately, the experience in Switzerland and Sweden suggests that more sophisticated bank customers who have large accounts or have commercial accounts adjust quickly to negative interest rates after a few weeks of bitter complaining, effectively charging large depositors and paying to pay for the small deposits. And this is what they're saying. They're saying that the negative interest rates on the large deposit, the large accounts at the bank, will pay for what they lose in exempting the small accounts. And they're saying that the experience in Denmark suggests that more sophisticated bank customers who have large accounts or commercial accounts adjust quickly to negative interest rates after a few weeks of bitter complaining. But the shield from negative interest rates, the objective of a two-tier system is to have negative interest rates prevail generally in the markets, but shield from negative interest rates those who are the least able to understand negative interest rates and perhaps to accomplish a bit of redistribution as well. So this is a redistribution of wealth. They're talking about, and check it out. Worrying about redistribution per se is typically not mandated central bank objective in the context of the monetary policy. Monetary policy actions do not have redistributive effects. For example, there's been criticism of regressive redistribution effects of quantitative easing. By contrast, the policies proposed here do not present such concerns in the fact that they have the opposite impact by redistributing towards lower income households, although not redistribution towards the poorest of the poor, because they may not have a bank account. So there's a positive in this stuff as we go negative and do the cashless society. All right. So real quick, focusing first on household depositors, here are some of the ways commercial banks might discourage large cash withdrawals. And y'all tell me if y'all recognize any of this. You know what I'm saying? Wow. They're giving way. Look, they're giving them ways. This is the blueprint on how to do this. Put fees on each withdrawal transaction at banks' own ATMs and impose a maximum amount for each cash withdrawal. Maximum amount already exists on most accounts, 200, 300. Some cards you can do 500, but that's about it. So they've already done that. I recognize that. Impose similar fees at the human teller window. I've seen no such evidence of this yet. Alternatively, discontinue cash withdrawals at the teller window, directing customers to ATMs. This is currently being encouraged by Bank of America, Wells Fargo. They're putting up these tellerless, humanless tellers. I think Bank of America, they only have one counter for the tellers, and the last one I was in had 6 spots, 3 on each side, where you can go, and they had a camera on your face, and if you had a problem, you could pick up the little line and talk to someone sitting in front of a backdrop. Keep low inventory of cash in the branch and other than ATMs themselves, so tellers could often tell customers honestly, I don't have enough cash here at my window. I recognize that. I've even had some banking institutions say we need 2 or 3 days to order the cash, which is a discouraging measure. Whether or not they have the cash, it doesn't take 2 or 3 days to get it. Although household depositors are likely to feel a bank's policies are more fair if there is an exemption amount, if they sense that paper dollar in the wild is more valuable than a dollar in the bank, they are likely to withdraw more than in normal times. The worst case in regard, which would lead to many withdrawal cash, they easily sell the paper currency at premium to businesses that were centralizing paper currency storage. And then they get into how to mitigate the rise of businesses that offer services of cash storage that aren't negative. So I give you $100 and you give me back $100, and the fee for you holding the actual cash is less than the negative interest rates of the bank. All right. And what else? There was something. The primary purpose of restricting currency flows in and out of the country is to avoid offshore money market mutual funds backed by paper currency and offshore paper currency storage businesses. And they've already done this with gold. Reduce use of banking system, which is disintermediation. All right, man. There's something that I wanted to say. Oh, yeah, here we go. There is always some demand for paper currency to keep secrets from the government and others. For example, paper currency is needed for tax evasion and other illegal activities. I mean, look, demonizing. You guys are you're so bad for wanting to use cash. For cash hoarders, doing a large share of transactions in cash instead of using electronic means of payment make it look suspicious. Nevertheless, the likelihood of widespread disintermediation, not using the banks, at least by small-time agents who only need to do small-scale paper currency storage, is a big problem with the prohibition approach. The benefit to boosting aggregate output outweighs the cost of providing an inefficient subsidy to holders of cash. I mean, these fools are tripping. All right, man, where is it? They made a statement in here. Paper currency is itself an asset. Okay, paper currency is itself an asset of the central bank. I think that's cool. I think that's dope. If it's an asset to the bank, what is it to you, the holder? People using paper currency for tax evasion may well have a high marginal propensity to consume more, but the more serious criminals who hold most of the rest of the paper currency by value probably have a low marginal propensity to consume. They're not spending it as much. Laundering money through businesses legitimate enough that it is safe to spend the money takes time. So for the most financially successful criminals, consumption must often be deferred. Look at this. Think of the trouble the protagonists in Breaking Bad had in spending their money in the present without calling too much attention to themselves. Look, so if you got cash, you like those methamphetamine drug creators and dealers from the show called Breaking Bad. I'm telling you, they're gonna demonize. All right, man. Having fun with the rise, serving the function. They got hopes and dreams. That's hopes and dreams. Where was I at? Cutting taxes or raising spending adds to the national debt. I bet you didn't know that. Come on, man. Where is it? I don't know where it is. Oh, here we go. Framing a rate cut as a response to another country's actions could be politically beneficial in some circumstances. Those within the company who want to champion a new business. Okay, so they're talking about the new stuff. True motive. All right, look. I'm just going to wrap this up. Look. When it comes down to this currency, this fiat currency, these dollar bills, you know, there's multiple layers to this monetary system. One of the highest layers to this monetary system currently is the International Monetary Fund. International Monetary Fund. And I don't care what anyone says. What they put in these papers is either already happening or is going to happen. And technically, the International Monetary Fund is the only solvent, the only solvent bank. It's the only bank that's solvent. And when all this, pops off, their policies, because they got these SDRs, these special drawing rights, which they've already talked about using as money, and they're saying that the normal people couldn't get their hands on the SDRs as cash. It would only be like large corporations and companies, which would encourage some sort of corporate money. I'm not going to get into that. What I am going to get into is the overall structure is large. The policy is being implemented and created by those who really don't have our best interest in it. They really just care about whether or not it's going to be an issue, whether we're going to break stuff, basically, or not. They are not thinking about us. Ultimately, negative interest rates is taking more of the value of the currency than they're already taking by taking 2% on inflation. This is not real money. Currency is not real money. Even with how the policy is, if you don't know real money is, you're done. in the public, you're taught to save, save, save. And you're going to save yourself into poverty because the currency that you're saving is over time losing value. Let them implement some of these policies even further. And I don't care how much, it's $15 minimum wage is $15, minimum wage is, it doesn't matter. If what you could buy for $50 last June now costs you $75 or $100. The pay increase is nominal. Doesn't matter. We're still a slave. We have no control over this currency. They're gonna start popping it off, and they're gonna do it to battle recessions. Is what they're doing. Central banks, they want to fight recessions, and it's going to encourage people to spend their money, their deposits. And if you're a saver and you got a large bank account, I'm gonna let you know the thresholds you're not going to be able to reach because they're talking about large commercial accounts. It's not cool, man. It's not cool at all. It has very widespread implications, especially if you have a pension or some sort of retirement account that's paying in Federal Reserve notes in fiat currency, and you're depending on that to live. After you retire, you're no longer making income off the exchange of your labor. This is a serious thing. I can't get into the seriousness of this. I know a lot of this stuff is probably over most people's heads, but I did my best to make it, understandable. I suggest that you download this. You go to blogtalkradio.com/high frequency, and you download this episode. You click on the episode. It's in the top right-hand corner somewhere. It's like three. Look, it's an icon. It's like a download icon or whatever. And listen to this as many times as you have to in order for you to kind of pick up on what I'm saying, because this is very important. This affects you. This affects your families. This affects your next generations. This is serious. And this is one of the reasons why I heavily push exchanging some of your paper currency every time you get your hands on it. I don't care if you get $1, take 40 cents, put it in a jar. And when you have enough to grab some precious metals, do it. American Eagle silver coin is like 20-some bucks. But as this market and this currency and these rates and all this stuff goes on, the markets are going to drop, which means the value of precious metals is going to go up, which means it's going to begin to get prohibitive for us to grab it. The time to grab is now. It's not going to be any cheaper in the future. This is as cheap as it's going to be. Stop thinking about, how cheap it was a couple years ago. Dollar cost average, which is like, if you can do $40 a month, then do $40 a month. If you could do $10 a month, then do $10. Of course you can do $10 a month. Grab some silver, grab some gold. Be careful on the purity. Understand the purity. Do some research. What's 10 karat? What's 24 karat? 24 is whole. So 24 over 14, what's left? 10? That means 14 karat gold is less than half gold. There's other metals in it. 10 karat is even less. 18 karat is around 60-something%, 70%. I'm just going off the top of my head. 22 karat is not pure. 24 karat is only pure gold. You only find that in Asian jewelry. Otherwise, you're going to find it in coins and in bars. American Eagle coins, gold bars. You got to make sure it's pure or pure enough. Don't get swindled, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of people coming out here saying that you can get silver and you can get gold. It's not going to be pure. It's going to be, look. So the reason why I say, dollar cost average every single month, every single week, whatever it is for you, you should be grabbing some precious metals. That's what we can do. We can't invest a bunch of money in the stock market and time it right and make millions of dollars. Like I can't really see that. More than likely, I'm not going to invent some medical product, some bionic arm that makes people, veterans able to, hug their families. I'm more than likely not going to be able to do that. But the things that I can do is what I focus on. And what I can do is I can dollar cost average and make sure that my family has precious metals that hold value. It's protecting the purchasing power. It's my energy being stored in some gold, in some silver, whatever, however long it took me in my life to earn the currency, to get the gold and silver. That energy is stored and can't be taken away, can't be put into negative interest rates. There's no counterparty risk. And as they keep messing with these economies and so on and so forth, and the swine flu and the coronavirus with the, you got a shot and then a coronavirus chaser, all this stuff going on. And I'm not making light of it because people are dying. Is going to make, the markets and worldwide currencies worth less, which is going to raise the value of gold and silver. So it's an insurance for your paper money. You got insurance for everything else. Precious metals are insurance for your paper money. Paper money currency is going to lose value. And what we can do today is grab gold and silver while we can, while it's affordable in certain quantities. So, if you're interested in signing up for Carat Bars, you can grab as little as 1/10 of a gram. It's like 6 or 7 euros. It's less than $10. And then when you get, 10 of those, that's a gram. And it adds up over time, and it adds up very quick. And a lot of us be like, man, that ain't nothing. I ain't going to do that because not only got this much gold, which ain't nothing, and people can front on me. Man, look. Playing yourself. This stuff is coming. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. I have no control over the currency. I have no control over the monetary policy. And a lot of us, none of us do. But this is what we use for food, clothing, and shelter, entertainment, to show love, to aspire, to invest in business, to invest in our education, to invest in our private education. We all use the same currency that is not under our control. And they're letting us know what they're going to do. I'm a firm believer in the public puts us on notice, whether we can see it or not, whether we understand the notice or not. I'm a firm believer that the public puts us on notice. They let us know what's going on. We just don't pay attention. And this is me paying attention. This came out last year, 2019. What was it? August 4th or something like that? April 2019, last year. They got a paper on cashless society, how to move everybody out of currency, demonetizing notes, which means a $100 note. You guys got $100 bills? Yeah. Did you hear the news? I read in the paper today that all $100 bills are going to be worthless after February 15th. What? You read that? What? Nah. You do a Google search, sure enough, they put that out. $100 bills are going to be worthless. And that's what we saving it, man. Oh, man, imagine it. They did it in India. The two most common denominations of bills, currency, they demonetized them joints. They're doing all this stuff all over the world. It's like little tests. And they're getting all their data, and they're figuring out how to do this stuff. And here it comes, man. I ain't trying to scare nobody. I'm here to inform you. I'm here to speak the truth. And, as I seek it. And, what you can do. Because I'm not here to, give the issue. Here's the problem. Here's what's coming. Oh, my God. And not give a solution. What you can do is start moving out of paper currency. Start moving your savings out of paper currency. If you got a 401k, call them. Say, hey, can I self-direct the 401k? And they're like, I don't know. You got to talk to someone in Human Resources. Well, then you got to call Human Resources. Hey, Human Resources, can I self-direct the 401k? I don't know. You got to call the fund manager. Well, what's the fund manager's number? Here's the fund manager. All right, fund manager, can I self-direct the 401k? You're going to get a yes or you're going to get a no. If you get a no, I'm sorry. I suggest that you take as much money as you can and start grabbing gold and silver. Dollar cost average. Don't go hungry. Don't take food off the table. But, we all have expenses that are elected, which means we don't need them. We don't need it. Like, I drink coffee every day. I don't need coffee. I ain't going to die without coffee. I just really like espresso. And, the almond milk mixed with the steam. It tastes really good with the chocolate. Look, I like it. I don't need it. But they be like $6 a day. So I make my stuff at the crib. But even still, I don't need coffee. And if I wasn't, able to dollar cost average in the way that I am, that would be one of the things I would cut is coffee. Until I had enough precious metals that I felt like I can grab some coffee. People be hitting me up talking about, so should I buy this stock? Should I get into this? Da, da, da. And I'm like, fam, does your estate have a foundation of real money? Of real money savings? Of a real money holdings? Precious metals outside of the banking system that can't get messed with? And at any point in time, you can introduce it right back into the banking system by cashing it in for Federal Reserve notes and purchasing whatever you need. No, I don't. I was planning on doing that when I made my first million. Good luck, man. It's all fake. It's all fiction. The phone you're on, the laptop you're on, the computer, it's fake. It wasn't created by nature. Fiat currency is fake. Gold and silver is real, fam. It's real. It's absolutely real. And, I challenge you to look around you and identify, honestly, all of the fictions that exist around you. Like the house that you're in, the apartment you're in. It was built by man. Houses don't grow out of the ground. It's a construct. Technically a fiction. It's not natural. You know what I'm saying? Like, look around you and see how many fictions exist around you and how we just accept them every day. So much so that we have ultimately lost the of, but we haven't, because my people, man, my grandma, my uncle, my father, all of my elders had gold teeth, gold chains, gold bracelets, gold watches. Fam, like, there was a lot of gold in my household, but it was jewelry, though. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, we like to floss or whatever, but I feel like it's like a instinctual understanding that this is actually for real, and this is what we floss with. You know what I'm saying? And then, we've somehow traded that into, name brands, these last names and these names of other people's companies. Other people's enterprise, other families' enterprises and stuff. And it's all cool. It's, the public, we love it. I love it. We all love it, right? I don't love it. I think your responsibility. If you wanna sign up for Carrot Bars, it don't cost you a penny. All you gotta do is buy the gold, pay for the shipping when you get it shipped to you. Straight up, disclaimer. Email me, admin@welcometothefoundation.com. Send you an email. It'll have a video. You can learn about it. Send you a link. You sign up. Whatever, do your dance. As little as 6 or 7 euros right now. As gold goes up, the price goes up. But you can't tell me you don't have $10 a month. Straight up. Or even, I would say, probably like $30 a month minimum. Because that way you can get an ounce of silver and like about 1/10 of a gram of gold. And get your stack on. But look, man, I'm trying to tell y'all, sister, brother, they're going to mess with this currency. They're going to mess with these banks. They're going to mess with the deposit accounts. They're going to mess with the credits and the debits. They got the algorithms that the credit bureaus are about to implement to catch, CPNs. You got Social Security Administration that's linking up with all these banks to catch CPNs. And they're doing that for a reason. The reason why they're locking it down, because they're about to do something and they're trying to plug all the holes so we can't get out. And that's why I be like, occasionally I'll do a show. The public is locking down, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not a fear monger type dude. I'm a solution based dude. You tell me the problem, first thing I'm going to start talking about is the solution. I ain't finna sit here and talk with you and complain with you about how that's messed up and they shouldn't do that and how dare they and blah, blah. I don't do that. I'll be on the solution. You want to talk about the problem? I'm going to excuse myself very politely. But I'm telling you, I promise and affirm that if you dedicate energy to consistently get $30, as little as $10 a month of precious metals, before all this stuff really starts to get weird, you will have a nice little position to where you're going to be in a better position than 99% of the people around you. And then you got to start thinking about, okay, so how am I going to protect myself? Because eventually these fools are going to figure out that I'm over here getting it. I'm just playing. But it's a real concern. But there's a wealth transfer that's about to happen. It's happening now. And in order to catch a little piece of it, you got to focus on gold and silver. And you got to focus on not getting bent and burnt on the deal. You got to focus on whatever price they say, try to get it lower. Don't matter. First, try to get it $1 lower. But man, if you can get it 50 cents lower, cool. Especially if you go into the We Buy Gold spots, they didn't pay the premiums. Don't charge me the premiums, fam. And learn about the premiums, because you look at the price of gold in the market and you go buy and they be like spot price. And you be like, what? They be like, yeah, we got to add this much because of the. And at first, man, I first heard that, I thought he was trying to scam me. I laid in the fam. I felt bad too. I came back and apologized. It wasn't like, I wasn't cussing at him and threatening him or something, but I definitely laid in the fam. But, educate yourself. But either way, man, get your hands on it. Get your hands on it. Email me, admin@welcometothefoundation.com if you want to get into carat bars. I feel like, as the prices go up, it's gonna be so scarce. It's gonna blow your mind. It's gonna blow your mind. You ain't gonna be finding gold, silver nowhere. It's gonna blow your mind. So get set up now. I don't know, man. Should I go to the phone lines? I think I'm done. I think I'm out of here. I think I talked a lot. I think I wore your ear out. I definitely want to remind y'all the live recording of the webinar, Shake and Bake, Layup, Passport, No Social Part 2 is this Saturday. If you want to get in on that, email me, admin@welcometothefoundation.com. Get you all the information. Make sure you hit welcometothefoundation.com. At least, the very least, sign up for the email list. But we do offer a free PDF section. You just grab them and go. Download them joints. But you don't know what you missed from the email list. And y'all take care of yourself. I know things are cool, and things are always cool until they're not. And as a famous philosopher in our culture once said, it was all good just a week ago. Things can change in an instant. Situations can change very quickly. There's riots going on in China because they shut the cities down and they can't get food into the areas, so the grocery stores ran out of food. This is 2020 and it's happening. It's happening right now. And please don't think it can happen to you, because it can. And, if anything happens in this country, we going to be the first ones to feel it, fam. Think about it. It's going to hit us hard. So, I'm just doing my best to let y'all know. I'm the homie that says, look out. Look out. And, the car flies by or something like that. And you're like, man, thanks, man. And I'm like, man, don't worry about it. I'm really, for real, don't thank me, because I don't want to see the mess of you getting tore up. That's thanks enough. You not getting tore up in front of me, that I have to witness it. And I hate to see my people in terrible positions, financially, emotionally. It just tears me up, man. Tears me up. I'm gangster as hell. Look, But, every man has emotions. And if you're a good man, you don't like to see people hurt, especially people you care about. And I love all y'all. I love all my people, even my people that be looking crazy at me and stuff and trying to get brolic, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. I'm always able to diffuse the situation because, I don't have that ego in me or, I don't have nothing to prove to nobody. And I know you just really hurt. Most people just really hurt. And they're mad and been struggling their whole life and, with money and finances and, trying to make a family, but that's hard. And, so most people are just mad. And I feel bad because that's, your life must be not that good. But we have a choice, and, with that choice comes responsibility, but with that choice also comes power. We can lay down and take what we've been getting, or we can stand up and do something about it. And I ain't saying, just pop off the police or nothing. But we can make moves for ourselves and our family to put us in a better situation. I say one of the biggest things you can do is get life insurance. Even if it hurts, pay the premium. Why? Because in a year and a half, you will live a different lifestyle. You will live a different lifestyle. Of course, get the right life insurance. But you will have a whole different lifestyle. How can you do that off life insurance? I wondered the same thing. I wondered the exact same thing. The exact same thing. But it blows my mind what, these things that we're not told how important they are. What's most important, you got Federal Reserve notes in your bank account, you got them in your pocket or in your dresser somewhere. They look, them things is a liability in your hands because they're a bank asset. So it's a liability to you. What does that mean? Understand that. We're supposed to be on assets. The most substantive asset is precious metals at this point in time. And, I can't say it enough. I really can't. If enough of us get it, we don't have to worry about using a paper currency. Because I can pay you in silver, I can walk in my niggas in silver. And then, the community, like, we accept silver, we accept gold. And, it starts getting larger and larger. It's like, oh, they accept gold, so a lot of people go there. So, the cat selling the sandwiches that don't accept gold, he can be like, hi, man, you getting a lot of business. I accept gold. And so they're going to start accepting gold because they're going to feel like they're losing out on money. We make the choices. Consumers run this world, man. This commercial world. We run this world. But we just don't, we don't get together. And when we start to get together, they do something. But, the so-called black dollar is worth trillions of dollars to the national economy, to the United States, a year. Do your numbers, do your homework. But it does not circulate in our neighborhoods, which is terrible. We got the Arabs at the grocery store, we got the Chinese. Look, fam, and I'm not racist, because I can be. I feel like only Europeans can be racist. So I'm not prejudiced against anybody. You know what I'm saying? But they close-knit. We ain't. We need to get together. But, ultimately, I digress on a different subject. This subject is about what the banks are planning to do with your money. It's not a good dance. It's not a dance you want to be a part of. I'm talking about they can be stepping on toes and not the way I be talking about. But I'm out of here. Shake and bake layup. Passport, no social. Recording of the webinar. You can get on the webinar. You can ask questions, real time. You can answer the question. Chris is a recluse, man. He ain't trying to, he ain't really about that life. Like, I had to really ask him with the weight of high frequency and Yusuf L all behind me. So, take advantage. I can't guarantee he'll, do anything else. But that, I love y'all. I really do. That's why I do this. There'll be days, man, I don't want to do the show, but I feel such a responsibility because I know y'all looking for me. So, which, it really inspires me to give y'all what I consider the business, to give you the straight business with the biscuit. Like, wow, here you go. Roll off like whoopty. But, look, get out this cash. Do your best. You need my help, email me. admin@welcometothefoundation.com. If you got this, you got this. No disrespect. You got it. All right. You got it. But get ready and teach one. You know, you're going to talk to like 10 people and only one to listen. You got to know when to stop talking to people who aren't listening and to talk to the people who are. Because we get frustrated because people don't listen to us. Stop that. Stop talking to them. Talk to the people who are listening. But I love y'all, and I want only the best for y'all. And I trust y'all to have a great week. I trust you enjoy yourself. I trust you, understand the value of precious metals against this paper promises. And I would love y'all to say 10 things that you're thankful for before you go to sleep. And, focus on what you can do. Because there's many things that you can do. And there's many things that are going well. And I'm not going to, I don't know about you, but I'm not looking to waste my focus on things that don't please me. That's actually the epitome of irritation. I focus my energy, my mental focus, my emotional focus on those things that please me. And I suggest you do the same. It's hard at first because negativity is addicting. But just work on it, as I work on it every day. But with these things, we get better together, and we get better as individuals day by day. With that being said, thank you for checking out The Foundation. I trust that you got some value from this, episode, and I'll catch you in the future here on High Frequency Radio Network. Peace to the gods.
Doing this thing all the way live. High Frequency Radio.